Hello friends, welcome to HRIQ Education. Friends, friends, today we are going to discuss about the Employees Compensation Act 1923, the MCQs of this act. Previously we have discussed the four acts: Factories Act, ID Act, Trade Unions Act and Payment of Wages Act. And this is our MCQs series containing the fifth act, which is the Employees Compensation Act 1923. Previously, it was known as the Workmen's Compensation Act, and after an amendment, it is now known as the Employees Compensation Act 1923. So, let's start our series. If you are liking my video, then please like it and mention any suggestions in the comment box. And also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please subscribe it and do not forget to press the bell icon, because when I upload the video in the next day of the another act or another HRM related video, you will be get notified. So friends, let's start the series and let's start the first question of today. It is the 210th question. Today's series will cover 16 questions today's lecture, and we have another video of this act which will come tomorrow. So let's start. The first question: the Employees Compensation Act 1923 of India was patterned after the workmen's compensation legislation of which country? USA, Germany, France, Great Britain. So the Employees Compensation legislation of 1923 covers the pattern after the workmen's compensation legislation of Great Britain, as almost all the acts are followed the Great Britain Act. So here the workmen's compensation also follows the Great Britain Act. Then the next question: which of the following doesn't come under the defenses which were previously available to the employers? Doctrine of assumed risk, doctrine of contributory negligence, doctrine of common employment, doctrine of employer's responsibility. So option D is the answer. All the three are covered under the defenses, but option D doesn't cover. Then the next question: first social security legislation in India is the Workmen's Compensation Act 1923, the first Factories Act 1881, the Payment of Wages Act 1936, and the Trade Unions Act 1926. So the first social security legislation in India is the Workmen's Compensation Act 1923. Option A is the answer. Then the next question: the Workmen's Compensation Act came into force on 1st April 1924, 1st July 1924, 1st October 1924, and 1st December 1924. The answer is option B, 1st July 1924. So the Workmen's Compensation Act came into force on 1st July 1924. Then the next question: in which amendment the name of the Workmen's Compensation Act was changed to Employees Compensation Act? As I have told in the beginning of the video, the Workmen's Compensation Act is now changed to Employees Compensation Act. The now thus changed because of redefining the gender neutrality. So the amendment is 2009. Option B is the answer. Then the next question: on whose recommendation the name of the Workmen's Compensation Act was changed to Employees Compensation Act? Who recommended that? The Royal Commission on Labour, the first NCL, the second NCL, none of the above. The actual recommendation came from the second NCL. So option C is the answer. Then the next question: which of the following conditions doesn't come under the definition of total disablement? So under the definition of total disablement, which of the following conditions doesn't come? Loss of both hands or amputation at higher sites, loss of a hand and a foot, very severe facial disfigurement, absolute deafness, none of the above. So the answer is option E, because all of the above come under the definition of total disablement. So option D is the answer, as it is given which of the following condition doesn't come. So option E is the answer. Then the next question, which of the following is included in wages? Which of the following? Traveling allowance, special expenses, pension, dearness allowance. As we have known, the traveling allowances, special expenses and pension, all these three doesn't cover under the definition of wages. So wages include dearness allowance. So option D is the answer. Then the next question, employer is not liable to pay compensation under the Workmen's Compensation Act in which of the following? When the employee is under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time of accident, willful disobedience to any order regarding safety, willful removal or disregard of any safety guard, all of the above. So the employer is not liable to pay compensation under all of the above conditions. So option D is the answer. But for your kind information, when the employee is under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time of accident, this doesn't include the fatal accidents. Okay, if fatal accident occurs during the influence of alcohol or drugs, employer is liable to pay compensation. But if no fatal accident occurred, then employer is not liable. Then the next question, in which of the following cases it is considered as the accident arising in the course of employment? Interruptions in the course of employment, such as power failure, the gap between the arrival time and the scheduled time for the commencement of work, the gap between the scheduled time and the departure time for the ending work, time spent in traveling to and from work, none of the above. Here the answer is option E, none of the above, because under all of the following conditions, if an employee is following or acting on the order of the employee, on the order of the employer or his agent, then all of the following conditions satisfies in the course of employment, accident arising in the course of employment. But in all of the following conditions, if employee is not working on the order of the employer or his agent, if any accident occurs in all of the following conditions, then it is not considered as the accident arising in the course of employment. So here it is not given that the employee is following the orders of the employer or his agent, hence the answer is option E, none of the above. Then the next question, in which of the following cases any accident cannot be considered arising out of employment? Performing a different work which wasn't assigned to him, doing an unnecessary work or any personal work, unnecessary or personal work, carelessness in doing any work, injury due to any natural cause such as lightning or a frostbite or snake bite, etc., all of the above. So it is cannot be considered arising out of employment. Here option E, all of the above. Then the next question, occupational diseases comes under which schedule of the Workmen's Compensation Act? Occupational diseases, schedule 1, schedule 2, schedule 3, schedule 4. So occupational diseases comes under schedule 3, option C is the answer. Then the next question, any list of injuries that deemed to result in permanent, total or partial disablement, any list of injuries that deemed to result in permanent, total disablement or permanent partial disablement comes under which schedule of the Workmen's Compensation Act? Schedule 1, schedule 2, schedule 3 or schedule 4? Actual answer is schedule 1, option A is the answer. Then the next question, in case where the employment is under more than one employer, The proportion of payment of compensation is decided by the Workmen's Compensation Committee, the Workmen's Compensation Commissioner, the Labor Commissioner, or the central government. Where any employer workman is working in an employment where more than one employer is controlling, then the payment of compensation is decided by the Workmen's Compensation Commissioner. So option B is the answer. Option B is the answer. Then the next question. The compensation amount for death under the Workmen's Compensation Act is 50% of monthly wages into relevant factor, or rupees 1,40,000, whichever is more. 60% of the monthly wages into relevant factor, or rupees 1,40,000, whichever is more. 50% of the monthly wages into relevant factor, or rupees 1,20,000, whichever is more. Or 60% of the monthly wages multiplied by the relevant factor, or rupees 1,20,000, whichever is more. So the answer to this question is option C, 50% of the monthly wages multiplied by the relevant factor, or rupees 1,20,000, whichever is more. Then the next question, the compensation amount for permanent total disablement is, in the upper question it was for the death, but in this question it is for the permanent total disablement. 50% of monthly wages multiplied by the relevant factor, or rupees 1,40,000, whichever is more. 60% of the monthly wages multiplied by the relevant factor, or rupees 1,40,000, whichever is more. 50% of the monthly wages multiplied by the relevant factor, or rupees 1,20,000, whichever is more, or none of the above. Actual answer to this question is also option B, 60% of the monthly wages multiplied by the relevant factor, or rupees 1,40,000, whichever is more. So you have to know what is the relevant factor. Relevant factor is calculated basing on the years of employment left, which is calculated by, there is a calculation, there is a table given in the book, you can see that. You don't need to remember the relevant factors, you have to know this. Okay, then the next question, this is the last question of today's lecture. We have ended today's lecture. Hope you have liked today's video. These questions are especially collected from the Bare Acts 2020 and the Labor Ministry website. So don't waste your time and focus on the next CIL exam. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please subscribe. If you can subscribe, and I will be get more motivated and upload videos on a regular basis. So friends, this is it for today. Hope you liked the video. Thank you.